Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai, Vrindavan Dhama ki Jai, Mayapur Navadvip Dhama ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Mayapur Dhama ki Jai, Shri Vraj Bhumi Vrindavan Dhama ki Jai, Nithai Gaur Premanandi. All glory is to the Sanskrit devotees. All glory is to the Sanskrit devotees. All glory is to the Sanskrit devotees. All glory to Shri Guru Shri Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna. Today we are reading from Sripad Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Shri Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, and we have lots of verses to go through. It's difficult enough to speak from one verse. We have how many verses today? 10 verses. So we'll be reading from text number 144 until 155. 154. 144 to 154. So I'll just repeat, I'll recite the verses. There's actually a few small purports as well. So I'll recite those small purports, and then we'll have the main purport and the verse response on 154. Okay? So bear with me as we go through this. Bhakta kahe Guru Ragya Heya Balavana Guru Agya Nalangiya Shastra Pramana. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, the order of the spiritual master is very strong and cannot be disobeyed. That is the injunction of the Shastras, the revealed scriptures. Then there's a verse from the Raghuvamsh, which is a poem by Kalidas. Sa Shushravan Matari Bhargavena Pidur Niyogat Prahritam Dvishadvat Pratyagrihit Agraja Shashanam Tat Agyana Gurunam Hya Avicharaniya. Being ordered by his father, Parashuram killed his mother, Renuka, just as if she were an enemy. When Lakshman, the younger brother of Lord Ramachandra, heard of this, he immediately engaged himself in the service of his elder brother and accepted his orders. The order of the spiritual master must be obeyed without consideration. Small purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. This is a quotation from the Raghuvamsh, chapter 14, text 46. Lord Ramachandra's statement to Sita, given below, is from the Ramayana, Ayodhya Khand, chapter 22, verse number 9. So this is the verse that Lord Ram recited to Sita in the Valmiki Ramayana. Nirvicharam Gurur Agya Maya karya mahatmanaha shreyo hi evam bhavatyascha mama jaiva visheshataha. The order of a great personality like a father must be executed without consideration, because there is good fortune in such an order for both of us. In particular, there is good fortune for me. And now back to CC. Tabe Mahaprabhu Thanre Kaila Angikara Apana Shri Anga Sevaya Dila Adhikara. After Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya said this, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Govinda and engaged him in the service of his personal body. Prabhu Priya Bhrityakari Sabhe Kare Mana Sakala Vaishnavera Govinda Kare Samadhana. Everyone respected Govinda as the dearest servant of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Govinda served all the Vaishnavas and saw to their needs. Chota Bara Kirtaniya Dui Haridasa Ramai Nandai Rahe Govindera Pasha. Both Haridas Senior and Haridas Junior who were musicians, as well as Ramai and Nandai, used to stay with Govinda. Govindera Sangha Kare Prabhura Sevana Govindera Bhagya Sima Nayaya Varnana. They all remained with Govinda to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, no one could estimate the good fortune of Govinda. Aradine Mukunda Tata Kahe Prabhurastane Brahmananda Bharati Aila Tomara Darshane. The next day, Mukunda Dutt informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Brahmananda Bharati has come to see you. Agya deha yadi thane aniya etai Prabhu kahe guru deha yave tandra thani. Mukunda Dutt then asked the Lord, shall I bring him here? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Brahmananda Bharati is like my spiritual master. It is better that I go to him. Etabali Mahaprabhu Bhaktagana Sanghe Jali Aila Brahmananda Bharatira Age. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees came into the presence of Brahmananda Bharati. And our verse for today, so please respond with me. Brahmananda Pariyache Mriga Charamambhara.
Brahmananda Pariyache Mriga Charamambhara.
Brahmananda Pariyache Mriga Charamambhara.
Brahmananda Pariyache Mriga Charamambhara.
Taha Deki Prabhu Dukha Pailayantara.
Taha Deki Prabhu Dukha
Taha dekhi Prabhu dukha bhailayantara.
Taha dekhi Prabhu dukha bhailayantara. Brahmananda Pariyache Mruga Charamambhara. Brahmananda Pariyache Mruga Charamambhara. Taha dekhi Prabhu dukha bhailayantara. Taha dekhi Prabhu dukha
Brahmananda Pariyache Mruga Charamambhara.
Brahmananda Pariyache Mruga Charamambhara.
Taha dekhi Prabhu dukha paila antara.
Taha dekhi Prabhu dukha
Mariache did wear Mriga Charma Ambara, a garment made of deer skin. Taha dekhi, seeing that, Prabhu, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Dukkha, unhappiness, Kaila, God, Antara, within himself. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees approached him. They saw that he was covered with a deer skin. Seeing this, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very unhappy. Purport. Brahmananda Bharati belonged to the Shankara Sampradaya. The title Bharati indicates a member of one of that Sampradaya's 10 classes of sannyasis. It is customary for a person who has renounced the world to cover his body with a deer skin or the bark of a tree. This is enjoined by the Manu Samhita. But if a sannyasi who has renounced the world simply wears a deer skin and does not spiritually advance, he is bewildered by false prestige. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like to see Brahmananda Bharati wearing a deer skin. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya-Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadabhayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lita Shri Krishna Kamritamscha Hey Krishna Guruna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagapate Govesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Varevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasavi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna and good morning to today's class. So there is so much to speak throughout these 10 verses. Today, I won't be able to do justice to cover everything, but I have chosen 3 themes to cover today. The first theme is the absolutely amazing story of Mother Renuka. Okay. This is a personality who is not well known so much, even her husband, and obviously Parashuram, not so much information is told about him. So I would like to cover the story of Mother Renuka because it brings around so much understanding of Krishna's intent of the verse, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam, where Krishna descends to protect his devotees and annihilate the miscreants. The second theme that I would like to cover, if we have time, is the reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sad to see Brahmananda Bharati, who is just like his spiritual master, wearing a deer skin. And then the third, given that it's Easter Sunday, happy Easter. I will try to share with you a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and His Holiness Golok Nivasani, Sripad Ramakrishna Maharaj. They discuss about the life after Easter, after the crucifixion. So the understanding is that people write history. So it is not always that historians are limited to the place where Jesus was born and he had his pastimes. There are other individuals who wrote about his story, after the crucifixion. And Prabhupada discusses this with Ramakrishna Maharaj. So would you like to hear about that as well? Yes. Because his life doesn't end after Easter, after the chocolate eggs. There's a little bit more. So if we get time, actually I recorded the conversation on my phone. I'll try to play it to see if it works. Otherwise I also have the text. Discussion of April 1977. Okay? So let's see how we go through. So the first verse that we read in 144. All of us know that in the 10 offenses, offense number 4 is Guru Avagya, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. This is from the Padma Purana. So we all understand how important this is, and primarily because the spiritual master is the representation of the Chaitanya. In Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, Kaviraj Goswami explains that the Lord in the heart, he manifests in the form of the spiritual master. So if you do Guru Avagya, if you disobey the orders of the spiritual master, it is the same as committing an offense against Lord Krishna. There is so much more to discuss on this matter, but one of my favorite offenses is number 4. When I mean by favorite, because I see this done so much, actually. Shruti Shastra Nindanam, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. This is something which is very subtle, but my general observation is that if Srila Prabhupada did not comment on something, then be very careful. Because you never know that you may be breaching offense number 4. And this is a very important point. And it happens again and again and again, at least in my circles. So I try my best to ensure that this offense is not committed. Better to say, I don't have the answer, or I don't know. Because that way then you can be limited to your reality, and also avoid committing offenses, whether it's discussing about the so-called limitation of the Vedic literatures, or whether it's criticizing other scriptures, because, for example, one is following the Western view on Vedic civilization. These things should not happen. They're very dangerous. And therefore, offense number 4 is very meaningful. Kalidas in the Raghuvamsh, he quotes this very long verse about Parashuram killing his mother, Renuka, just as if she were an enemy. When we hear such verses, I ask some devotees, what comes to your mind? And I would just tell you what they said. It was just a few devotees who I asked. Some of them said was the materialistic nature of a female. Some of them said the inferiority of a female. And others said the power of Parashuram. Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Jai. Jai Shri Lakshmana Ramana ki Jai. Jai Shri Govinda ki Jai. However, these immediate reactions when you come across this story are completely incorrect. This story actually has been written to glorify the power of woman. This story has been written to explain the importance of women. Renuka was born in Madhya Pradesh. She manifested from Agni by her father after performing a yajna, King Renu. Now Renuka was named Renuka because she was an atomic scientist, very smart, very intellectual, and very clever. She was an atomic scientist, and therefore her name was Renuka. And you'll get one example on how clever and smart she was. Okay? She did something that no one's ever been able to do, even to this day. So we will come to that. There's just one example that I will give to demonstrate how smart and clever and advanced she was as a person. At the age of 8, she mastered the scriptures and she became very respectable in the academic community. It is said that the son of Jamadagni, he once upon a time came to the kingdom of King Renu. And when he saw Renuka, he asked her father for a hand in marriage. Jamadagni, actually it's a very long story which I won't get into, but he is the son of Maharishi Bhrigu. And Bhrigu, you will know, is the personality who can travel everywhere. And he also once ended up in Vaikuntha, where he kicked the chest of Narayana. It's a different story which we won't get into, so I hesitated. King Renu, with all awe and celebration, arranged the marriage of Jamadagni and Renuka. Renuka was very young when she got married. And from the moment of her marriage, all she did was serve her husband in assisting him in performing his Sandhya Vandanam, recitation of scriptures, seeing students, disciples in the house, cooking, feeding, and also answering questions. And on her daily routine, she would go to the Ganga, and her job was, her service was to bring water back to the ashram, so Jamadagni can perform his tarpan, his achaman, and his ablutions. Now during those days, this was a very long time ago. I will give you an example. This is how long the story was. Once upon a time, it was extremely sunny. And Jamadagni became very upset. So he shot several arrows at Surya in order to dissipate the heat. Surya appeared and said, please, I'll be destroyed. I will do you a boon. I will give you something called an umbrella and something called sandals. So you all own umbrellas. The first umbrella was given by Surya to Jamadagni. And umbrellas then became popular on this planet, and sandals, so that we can protect ourselves from the heat. Of course, in Europe, it's also used for rain as well. So this is an example of how old this story was. Parashuram appeared in the 19th Mahayug, Lord Ramchandra in the 24th, Lord Krishna in the 28th. So, and Parashuram is still around. Parashuram, in the previous yugas, he was Kalki. And at the moment, he's waiting for Vishnu Yasha's son to be born in Sambhala, which is in Moradabad, India. And he will then initiate him and become his guru. And then Kalki will do what he has to do to end Kali Yuga. Parashuram is living for a very long time. And Jamadagni was his father. So can you imagine how long this story took place? So many years ago, many hundreds of thousands of years ago. So, how would she now bring back this water? Here is an example of her atomic scientific ability. She would make a pot out of sand, and she would fill the pot of sand with water. and then she would grab a snake and she would wrap it around her head and then place the pot of sand with Ganga water upon her head. And every day she would go to the ashram to provide this water for Jamat Agni. And there were many, many other inventions and creations that Renuka gave to the world. The concept of a pot, the concept of an umbrella, the concept of wearing sandals. There is a lot more to describe about her glories. But what you find is in the Vedic literatures, there are two powerful energies which always get disturbed as an indication for the Lord to descend to annihilate miscreants. The first is Gaumata, cow. And the second is women. These two energies, they're always implicated in the destruction of unrighteousness. So when we say about women, we immediately think of Draupadi, Yajnaseni, we think of Sita, we think of Shachimata, and in this situation, Renuka. So, why was Renuka's head decapitated? After explaining so much about her importance and her glory. There are so many reasons for this. I will just cover one or two or three. But it's not what you're assuming. It is not because she was fallen and she committed a sin. And it's just another example of the problem that women create in life. It's none of that at all. It's the entire opposite. What did Draupadi do? What did Sita do? What did Renuka do in order to be treated the way they were by the most powerful evil people on this planet? Why did they sacrifice themselves for the higher good? Because they're powerful. They have the ability to do so. In Vedic culture, the feminine energy is known as Shakti. Why? Because that's where the power belongs. That's where the greatness belongs. Even in the Brahma Puran, towards the end, when Krishna returned back to Vrindavan to meet his parents and Shri Radha, Vyasadeva explains that there was a conversation where they were reminiscing about Krishna's pastimes. And they said, Krishna, you do know, right, that the reason why you killed all those demons as a young boy was because Shri Radha manifested in your left hand, and through your left hand all the demons were annihilated. Your right hand was very weak, so Shri Radha came, because she is the Ardhangani on the left hand side, and she actually annihilated all the demons in Vrindavan. Krishna was the medium. It was Shri Radha doing so. And then, don't forget that when you picked up Govardhan Hill, you chose your left hand, because I was there lifting up Govardhan Hill on your behalf. So there are so many intimate, beautiful exchanges between Radha and Krishna. But the point I want to make is that to understand the story correctly, you have to understand the tattva that's represented in the Vedic scriptures. So, Renuka and Jamat Agni, they were living at a time where literally the whole planet was under the supervision of a great king whose name was Caitanya-Caritāmṛta. He was so powerful that he had, from benediction, he gained 1,000 arms. That's how powerful he was. Now, Caitanya-Caritāmṛta was actually not like Ravan, and he was also a contemporary of Ravan. They lived at the same time. Ravan was a sinner from beginning. Most of you may have read that and you will know that. But Caitanya-Caritāmṛta was not like that. He was a Dhanvir, he would give charity, he would help the Brahmins, but power and fame got to his head. And he then began to become unrighteous. Now when Caitanya-Caritāmṛta became unrighteous, the general public started to break the day-to-day values, morals and ethics of human society. And one example in the Srimad Bhagavatam is that even Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, the king of the Gandharvas, even he was free to roam around naked in sacred pools of water, enjoying with the Apsaras and celestials. As you know, that in the Vedic culture, there are so many rules and regulations. Now, what is very, very important to note, it is not possible to understand all of the rules and regulations by yourself, by your readings. This is why there is a parampara, because one's father, one's mother, one's grandfather, one's grandmother, and then great-grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers and uncles and aunts, they're all following the Vedic culture, and it's a combination of all of their readings that children inherit. That is how you learn things. You don't learn culture just by reading a book. It will be limited. For example, many people, I'll give you a practical example. Many people, when they drive to the temple, they try to bring their car as close as possible to the entrance, right? This is true. Did you know that by doing so, one destroys their piety that they're going to accumulate to visit the Krishna in the temple? Because it's not allowed, actually. Driving to the temple by a vehicle is actually not recommended. It destroys your piety. Therefore, practically, how do you do this? You park at a distance. Maybe in the field. You can leave the space there for the devotees. Yeah. You park in the field and you walk as much as you can to the temple. That way you don't destroy your piety. So you may think, actually it's the opposite. I am conveniencing myself so I can go for darshan very quickly. But actually the scripture is saying something else. The scripture is saying that you must have some austerity walking to the temple. Otherwise the purpose of coming to the temple has already been destroyed before you've come. So there are a lot of minor, small little things that when parents, family, communities, generations share with their children, they're able to actually make advancement. Otherwise you keep going back and forward, back and forward. Now Kartavirya Arjuna, because he was the king of the entire planet, him becoming unrighteous started to give people the impetus to also follow irreligious principles. And therefore, Jamadagni and Renuka, in the same way that Sita and Ram, in the same way as the Pandavas and Draupadi, in the same way as Shachimata. I say Shachimata because some of you may have read on how hurt she was when Mahaprabhu departed and took sannyas. We won't have time to go through that at all, and I'm sure somebody else will cover it in the future. Similarly, Jamadagni and Renuka, they had to perform some activities by which people will recognize how bad the condition of the planet has become. And sometimes these activities are very, very gross. For example, in the Mahabharata, Vyasadeva chose to speak and include the very unfortunate disrobing of Draupadi. Now remember, Draupadi's other name is Krishna, because actually she's intimately related to Lord Krishna. Therefore, it is not the etiquette to speak about very irreligious activities that impact devotees to Krishna. But Vyasadeva chose to speak about Draupadi's disrobing. It's a very horrific scene if you read it from the Mahabharata. And for those who believe it's not there, it is because it's a book of 100,000 verses, and my dear friend, you probably haven't had time to go through 100,000 verses, given that the Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, and people struggle to read the Bhagavatam. Okay. What generally happens in good culture is that you first read the entire book, then you quote from it. What happens now is you don't read the book and you quote from it. Okay? So Prabhupada's books is very important to read back to front. Otherwise, we actually become cheaters because you don't actually know the context of the entire book. It's just another part I wanted to share. So, in order to demonstrate and evidence how bad society had got, once one Renuka had collected water in the pot of sand. As she was going back to the ashram, she saw the king of the Gandharvas bathing naked in the sacred rivers, which itself is an offense because water represents Varun. It's a personification of a celestial, and therefore one has to be very respectful when you bathe. And he was sporting in it. My work allows me to travel quite a lot, and only recently I had the fortune of visiting Mayapur and Vrindavan back to back. If some of you have done that, you'll know how beautiful it is. And two of the highlights of my visit recently was to go to the Janmastan of Lord Caitanya-Mahaprabhu and touch those sweet little feet of his under the tree, the neem tree. And then literally 2 days later to go to Mathura and touch that sacred slab upon which Lord Sri Krishna appeared. I also went to Radha Kund, and things have changed now. They let you bathe. So Radha Kund, Sham Kund, Radha Kund. But while I was bathing, there was a local person who started to swim in Radha Kund. I was thinking, oh God, the pandas are not going to like this. And immediately the pandas, no, stop swimming. So even swimming in sacred waters is not permissible because it is an activity of devotion. It's a religious activity, bathing. So when this happened, then taking place. Now many scriptures say so many things, and they say different things, okay? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it basically says that the word in the 9th canto, 16th chapter, verse number 3, the word used is kinjit. It's kinjit, which means very little. Renuka, very, very tiny bit, became inclined to, I don't know how to say this, but she was inclined to the activity that was going on, and her mind deviated from her chastity. Okay?